Hey folks, I'm here with Jeremy. Hey Jeremy.
Hi there.
And I've known Jeremy for quite a while now. He runs an incredible business here in Calgary. I'm going to interview him over the next few minutes here and ask him about his business, ask him about what he thinks about the world, um, the opportunity that exists for people to do things similar to what he's doing, and some of his insights that he's had over the last decade as a landscaper, and now over the last, was it 5 years, 6 years, have you been doing permaculture landscaping?
Actually, no, it's been over almost a decade for that.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing landscaping, another decade on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. 20 years. Unbelievable. So I hope you enjoy this interview, and I made sure that there is information on how to get a hold of Jeremy in the show notes below. And I think you've got some portfolio work on your website as well.
That's right, yep.
So after you watch the interview, you might want to head over to his website at sunshineearthworks.com and check out some of the work that he's done, and make sure you ask any questions that you've got in the comment section below. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, hi. So I'm Jeremy Zoller. My company is Sunshine Earthworks, and it is an edible landscape company. So we typically go into residential yards and we rip out all the grass, and then we put in food systems. I've been in operation for almost a decade, just shy of a decade, in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada. And yeah, we started off kind of doing more traditional landscaping, and then we got into more permaculture, and now we're doing a lot of water smart, a lot of very interesting projects that are very regenerative and sustainable. The type of people that typically are my clients there are people that want change, so it's the fringe. There isn't a lot of mainstream people that I work for. It's people that are looking for a little bit of something different in their life. They're sick of just watering and mowing their grass, and they want to grow their own food, and they want to have a little bit more resiliency in their yards. So a lot of what we do to build resiliency is we'll capture the water off the roof. The roof's a huge catchment opportunity, so we'll put them into as much rain tanks or rain totes as we can, and then the overflow goes into these passive water systems under the soil. And then next to that, we'll build a really high soil quality and put in a lot of food systems. So food forests, gardens, edible landscapes, a lot of plants and shrubs that provide you some sort of food. So the resiliency piece is that when your input becomes you going and managing your food, instead of, for example, mowing a lawn, there's a direct result. You get more nutrient-dense food because our soil is so good, and it teaches people about soil as well. So I think they start to care a little bit more about the environment. I love permaculture, and what I love most about it is that it's nature. And so that's what was my biggest draw, was trying to find something that I could give back to the earth. And permaculture is looking at nature's example and observing, and then just being smart about it and just taking that example and turning it into our own system. The earth has been here a lot longer than we have, and it is really, really good at what it does. So we have pretty big brains too, and we can tweak those things, and we can make these amazing systems that work. They work kind of without even any more inputs once you've built them right. So that's permaculture. It's a way of life, and it's changed my life, and I'm happy to share it with as many people as they're interested. All the systems that Sunshine Earthworks builds we'll start from the beginning. So we put in water systems, so a lot of water catchment, a lot of rain tanks, rain totes, cisterns, things like that. And then we put as many passive water systems in as well that are the overflows of those systems. I've also put in some irrigation from rainwater with solar powered pumps. They're very, very strange. They're not really in Canada yet. If you're in the Australia, they're everywhere. But here we're still learning. So that's the water side. We do a lot of interesting pathways, because you always want access in permaculture, right? So we do a lot of pathways, usually on top of my water catchment, because I build permanent French drains with drain rock and weeping tile and fabric, just to make sure that you're not going to have to go and do work later and change it. So I put a lot of pathways on top of those things, and then we basically build our systems next to those pathways. So a lot of gardens, a lot of traditional garden boxes, so cedar boxes. We do a lot of gardens out of stone. We've done quite a few interesting, like really artistic looking mandala gardens. We did a big medicine wheel concept at Mount Royal University. So there's a lot of education, a lot of traditional, there's a lot of tradition that we try to bring back in, a lot of native plants, and the food forest is kind of the biggest one that we use. And so that's a layered system. There's like 7 to 9 different layers, everything from large canopy trees down to shrubs and vines and ground covers, and it all works really, really well together. So that's kind of the gambit of most of what we do. I also am involved in greenhouses. So we have built a few greenhouses, passive solar greenhouses, as well as traditional ones. And everything else that landscaping has, that's usually a side thing for what we specialize in, but we do it all. So we do retaining walls, patios, walkways, you name it. If landscaping happens, Sunshine Earthworks also does it. A lot of earthworks. One of the earliest things that I realized, because I'm a traditional landscaper, I'm also a carpenter and a metal worker in my past, so I'm a good builder. And so what I learned and what I saw from other permaculture companies that are just starting out is I didn't see a lot of that transition, that union between the kind of this new idea and the old way of doing things, the traditional way. So it's actually, my specialty is a transition. So we actually will use a lot of more polished kind of borders and edges and things like that to make the the unkempt permaculture garden look a little bit more formal. And I think that's been one of the secrets of my success, actually, is understanding that not everybody's ready for this giant leap, but they might want to take a few steps. And if it can look beautiful, nature is beautiful. It's another permaculture lesson. Bring the aesthetic back. There's so many really interesting manicured products out there that landscapers can use and that any homeowner can use to make it look a little bit easier and maybe keep a little bit of aggro from the neighbors and from other people that are interested. So my biggest insight over the last decade is I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about what people want and what works in a system and what doesn't. Understanding the basics, so the basics of foundations and landscape and design, those are super important. That's kind of been the biggest thing that I've realized. You can't really skip steps. You have to have a really strong foundation to build anything, right? A greenhouse, a retaining wall, even a rain tank. So foundations is the first one. I think another big insight was that it's not about trying to sell something to somebody. It's about just showing them and leading by example and showing them what you can do, and then they will come to you. And I think if we want to change the world with permaculture, if we want to change this whole climate change emergency, we have to just go out there and lead the charge and show people what's possible. So I think that's the biggest insight that I've had. I also have realized that if you want to change the world, you better learn how to use a shovel. And that can be like a shovel on a machine as well, because we can get way more done with some of the equipment now. But you need to dig. Digging will change the landscape. It'll bring the water back. It'll bring the vegetation back. It'll build the soil sponge. Go and get a shovel. So where is the world going in the next 30 years is a very interesting question. I'm going to answer it with, I have no idea. So I'm going to say that, start off with. That old adage about the entitled person realizes that they know very little, and that's the key to enlightenment. So I've learned that I don't know much, and I'm hopeful, but I think where we're going is it doesn't look so good. I'm a little bit nervous about a mass extinction event on the planet due to basically the carbon in the atmosphere directly affecting ocean acidification and starting to kill off some of the bottom of the food chain in the ocean, which will then turn into a mass extinction event on the planet. So that's kind of the bad news. What can we do about it? I think we can actually make a difference if all we have to do is we have to start building the Earth's natural resources. We have to rebuild the management techniques that the Earth has. Number one is the soil. So if we can rebuild the soil sponge across the planet with some of the techniques of just growing gardens in your yard, growing more of a mulch system instead of the grass with hardly any good soil, a nice thicker soil, all that all that carbon can be sequestered right in the soil, into the biology, into the plants, and regenerative grazing is some of the farming stuff that can happen. If we can fix that and we can fix the global water cycle, I think we can actually have a chance of turning this thing around, maybe in the nick of time. I actually have seen a very big increase in demand in the last couple years. So when I started off, there wasn't a whole lot of people that were interested in this, the odd garden, but I don't even advertise anymore. I've also been around for almost a decade, so in this stream, and I'm pretty well known. Like, I teach with a bunch of horticulture societies and other permaculture things, and I'm in a number of communities. So all those things help, right? But the demand is increasing. People are realizing that, especially with the whole COVID situation, people are realizing that they need to take ownership of their own yards a little bit more and their own kind of lives. And I am so busy this year that I can't even satisfy all my customers. And I think it's because people are starting to wake up and realize that there's more to life than just going to work and watching Netflix and mowing your lawn. Plus, the whole food conversation about nutrient-dense food is starting to become more of a regular talk around the cooler. Right now, we're buying cheap food at all the fast food places, at Walmart, even some of the grocery stores. It's only about how cheap is the food. If you can actually have nutrient-dense food that has more nutrition in it because it's grown in proper soil, you can buy less, so you actually can save money in the long term, and your body's going to be healthier. So these are all things that we're learning. We're trying to educate as much as we can about this as well. We have a lot of colleagues, because we can't do this by ourselves, right? Go out and get some friends, go out and get some colleagues, work together, throw that competition out the window. I talk to every person that I meet in my business and say, I don't believe in competition. I don't care if you believe me or not, I don't. I want to work with you, I want to collaborate. Let's see if we can tackle this thing together. So I think having that kind of leadership and that ownership of that is why I've been able to make the impact that I have, and we're just starting. We're only 10 years in, sky's the limit. The challenges that I've run across, there's a few of them, but they always come in spurts. So it started off by me going, I don't really know, like, I have a lot of experience, I know how to landscape, I'm learning about this permaculture thing, but I don't know how to do certain things. And so how do you get started? How do you do something? So I relied on some mentors. I found some colleagues and friends that have experience estimating, experience doing different things in the landscape world. I've built a couple of partners, and so I was able to fill in that learning gap by relying on those people until I knew how to do it. The latest challenge is, now that I'm getting bigger and there's more clients and there's more work, it's a growth challenge. So now it's like, oh man, you got to go to the next level. You can't just run one crew anymore and a couple of people. You have to maybe hire a whole second crew, get some more equipment. I have to get off the tools a little bit more. And that's my favorite thing, is being on the tools. But of course, no, I have to go and meet with clients and do the estimating now and be a manager. And that's fine, but that's a challenge for me, because I like doing the work. So those are the two biggest ones as far as my business development. Some of the other challenges are, clients are always a challenge. Managing people is always a challenge. It's about trying to educate people so that you can teach them kind of what the right thing to do is. Because I'm the expert, they're not, right? But they have sentiment about things, and they want this and they want that. That's fine, we can work through that. But it's just being patient and coming across as an expert, and owning that and really understanding that. I had to learn that, and it's worked pretty well. And every once in a while you have to let a client go because it's not going to be a good fit. So some of the screening is something that I've learned from a challenge of getting as much work, just take everything that you can. Don't do that. Do some screening. Make sure that a client is going to be a good fit before you decide to put all this effort into them, because if it isn't a good fit, it's a type 1 error and it's always going to be a problem, and you're probably not going to be happy and they're not going to be happy in the end. To determine a good fit it's instinctual. So one is just trust your gut. Ask a lot of pre-questions. So I talk about this with my rainwater catchment. You always want to do pre-filtration before you get it in your tank, right? To keep it nice and clean. You want to do pre-screening with a client. You want to find out what their values are and their goals are, and have a chat with them and give them a bit of pushback and see what that looks like. Because ultimately, you only have so much time, and you want to make sure that your time is being used to maximum effect. And life's too short to be always frustrated on a project. Do I take on any mentees? So I have taken on a few people that I've had like meetings with and things like that. I've never tried the intern thing. I think that would be an interesting experiment. I have actually gotten a few grants over the years, and I've hired people to kind of take under my wing a little bit and show them some stuff. But one of the big things that I do with my staff is I have everybody subcontract. I don't really have any T-Ford employees. And I do that specifically so that they can also take on other gigs, and I try to teach them to be self-employed. So I kind of think of every one of my staff as a mentee. I want to build partners and I want to build collaborators, not just staff. That isn't the point, right? So I've had 4 or 5 different groups of people come through Sunshine, and they've stayed with me for a couple seasons, and now they're going off and they're doing their own thing, and some of them are doing permaculture. Some of them have started their own businesses. I try to teach them how to run some of their own books and how to do some of the accounting stuff. And so I guess everybody that works for me is a mentee, but I've never taken on like an official mentee or protege. My favorite part about the job, I'll say this first, is leveling. So when I can sculpt land with a rake, like I will actually walk up to some of my crew when they're doing that, and I'll be like, I'll take the rake out of their hand, and they know that I love it, and they'll just like, they'll go do something else. So I can, I don't know, I just love sculpting the land. It's my favorite part of my job. As far as owning the company, the freedom to have your own company, to take time off kind of when you want, which isn't really true in the summer. There's no time off in the summer, but you get a lot of time off in the off season. I've been very fortunate to like take a lot of time off in the winters. So I guess the freedom and the flexibility, being your own boss, I don't know how I would do if I ever had to work for anybody ever again, because I really consider myself the boss, even with clients. And yeah, so that freedom, and also just like I get to do things the way I really believe in. That's a big one for me. I really stand behind what I do, and I look for feedback, and I look for people to give me, I want them to be happy as well, and it's working out pretty well. People are pretty happy, I think. So at the Convergence a couple years ago, we had this little show and tell section, and I had read this passage in this book by Guy Gabriel Kay, and it was about this old Chinese dynasty, and the saying was, I am full of sorrow because I am powerless to amend a broken world. And I'll finish that. So that's the saying, and so it's about us. There's a big system in front of us. There's a big planet. The world is kind of messed up. People are kind of messed up sometimes, most times maybe. And so to understand that and understand that you can't really do anything about it can be a very depressing thought. So that's what the saying's about. That being said, after I said that, and I have this written on my office wall, I basically said, even so, I will do what I can. Draw your sword and follow me into the fray. So I got that. That's my motivation. Even if we can't make a difference, even if we can't save the planet, even if we can't stop this mass extinction event coming up, we still have to do our job. It doesn't matter. We still have to go out there. We still have to, repair the soil, plant trees, manage the earth. That's our job. And it doesn't change just because things are ending. In fact, it makes it even more important to do so. So that's my mantra. That's what I live by. I'll go out and I'll get my work done. I don't know. I often said if I saw the comet falling, I wouldn't stop planting the tree that I'm planting. I haven't tested it yet though. So, but that's actually how I feel. So if you want to find out about what's going on with Sunshine, so Sunshine Earthworks, my phone number is on all my shirts. It's 403-607-2826. sunshineearthworks@gmail.com, www.sunshineearthworks.com. That's all Sunshine. I'm also involved now with Living Soil Solutions. So livingsoil.ca is a great way to find out about soil health and compost. And then we're also right now at this place called Highfield Farm, and highfieldfarm.ca is our website. And it's basically an urban farm that we're converting from a brownfield site in the city of Calgary. It's a city pilot project, and we're just on the ground floor of that. So as soon as this COVID thing's over, actually now we can have 50 people at distance, so we may be able to start volunteer events again. So highfieldfarm.ca.